Alright, the essential question in this video is, what are the parts of a circle? This is the beginning of our circle unit, and before we go through all these definitions, which I'll go through pretty quickly with you, I'd like you to write on the bottom of your flipbook page the definition of a circle. So here's our definition of a circle. A circle is the set of all points equidistant. Equa means equal. So equidistant means the same distance. So the set of all points the same distance from a given point. So all the points that are the same distance away from a particular point. And that particular point actually is called the center of the circle. So let's go ahead and label our first thing here. We're going to go ahead and draw an arrow. I'll try to do this neatly so you guys can get this written down. This is the center of the circle. If you have a diagram that has a center, it will be noted. You'll see a point in the center that you'll be able to tell must be the center. Sometimes they'll tell you it's a center and sometimes they will not. So there's a circle, and you can see all the points around this point, they're all the same distance away from this central point or center point. That is a definition of a circle. Alright, let's define a few more things we need to know for this unit. The first one is pi. Pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. You will have a key on your calculator that represents pi. Class, it is not a variable. It represents a specific number. And typically, if you don't have a calculator and you want to estimate the value of pi, most textbooks and tests and quizzes will allow you to use the number 3.14, but that's an approximation for pi, not an exact value. Okay, circumference, you've seen that word before. That is the distance around a circle. So taking a look at our diagrams over here, the circumference is how far is it around the entire outside edge. And you know you can't use a ruler to measure that because you don't have a ruler that has that curve to it. But we have math properties or math methods to actually measure the distance around a circle, which is the circumference. Okay, the radius is a segment from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. So in our example down here, we're going to go ahead and point to a radius, and I'm going to do it right here. This little line right here, this segment from the center to a point on the circle is called a radius. And class, I could draw a radius anywhere on the circle. In fact, this line right here, this segment is a radius. This segment is a radius. If I just go from the center to this side or this point on the circle, that's a radius. So a radius can go any direction inside of a circle. It's the distance from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. A chord is a segment inside a circle with endpoints on the circle. So here's an example of a chord. This little line right here, let's go ahead and label that. This line segment that has points, its endpoints are on the circle, that is known as a chord. And it's spelled like chord, but we pronounce it as chord. Okay, what is a diameter? A diameter is a special chord. It's a chord which passes through the center of the circle. So if you take a look at our diagram right here, this dash line right here, this is a diameter. It has endpoints on the circle, but it also goes right through the center. So I'm going to label that and say that is a diameter. And something also special about a diameter, it happens to always be twice as long as the radius. So when you see a diameter, it just happens to be a radius going this way and a radius going this way. So the diameter is always going to be, if we represent the radius, and usually we represent the radius with a lowercase r, then the diameter is going to be 2 times r. It's twice as long as a radius. So that's a diameter. Next one is an arc. An arc is a piece of the circumference of a circle. So instead of looking at the whole circumference, we're just looking at a piece of the circumference. Let's go ahead and identify that on this particular circle. I'm going to label this as A, label this point on the circle right here as A, and this is B. And let's put another point over here somewhere and call it C. So This is an arc right here. The distance from point A around the circle to point B, that's part of their circumference, and we would call that arc AB. And this is called a minor arc. Let's write that down. This is called a minor arc. And the reason why it's a minor arc is because it is less than half of the size of the circle. It's less than half of the circle, so it is called a minor arc. And usually we will label a minor arc with just the endpoints, just the two letters, arc AB. Now over here under the arc, let's show you what the symbol is for the arc. If I wanted to talk about arc AB, the way I could do that shorthand is I put an AB and then I put a little curve on top. Now remember, class, how we would label a line segment? We'd say this is segment AB, this is line AB with arrows, this is ray AB with one arrow. Those are all math symbols to describe a geometric shape or geometric part. So an arc is represented with a little curved line that looks kind of like a small arc, and that's above the letters. So this actually would be read as arc AB. We could also have what's called a major arc. So in this case, if I said to you that I want you to be looking at arc ACB, now because it has three letters, we know it's going to be longer than half of the circle circumference, and that goes this way. You start with A, you find C next, and then you find B. So arc ACB is actually this big portion of the circumference, and that's called a major arc. It's a major arc because it represents more than half of the circumference of the circle. So there is major arc ACB, and this is minor arc AB. So an arc is just a piece of the circumference. All right, what is a semicircle? It's a special arc. A semicircle is an arc which has endpoints on a diameter. So when your endpoints are on a diameter, then you're getting exactly half of the circle. So if you look at this particular example, I'm not going to label this, but you can see that if I had a point here and a point here, this arc that went around the circle and touched the other endpoint of the diameter, that'd be exactly half of the circle, or 180 degrees of the circle. And by the way, I missed something here. We'd also want to just have a representation of how we labeled or how we talked about arc ACB. So if you saw an arc that was labeled with three letters, you can presume that it is a major arc. The reason we do that, class, is if you said arc AB and I said, which one are you talking about? This one or this one? The way you clarify this, say, no, I don't want just this one, that's a minor arc. I want the bigger piece of the circumference. You add a third point there so you can tell that you're actually going around the circle counterclockwise instead of clockwise from A to B. All right, so a semicircle is half a circle. A secant is a line that passes inside a circle. So this line right here, if we take a look at this, this is called a secant. Notice the difference between a secant line and a chord is a chord stops when it hits the circle. A secant passes right through the circle and continues both directions. So it's a line and not a line segment. And then the last one, tangent, is a line that touches the circle at only one point. And this point is called the point of tangency. So if I put a point right here where this tangent line, by the way, let's go ahead and label this. So this is a tangent, and I know that sounds like a trigonometry term, which it is. There is some relationship between tangent in trigonometry and a tangent line, but we're not going to go into that. But a tangent line touches a circle at exactly one point only, and if we labeled this as T, then that point of tangency would be point T. So there are the different parts of lines and parts of a circle, and we'll be talking about these at more length as we go through this unit.